What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the Dose Media Network YouTube channel. My name is Joey, and in this video, I will be going over my favorite cash game plays / strategy / construction for the NFL Week 4 slate on Draftkings. If you're new here and you enjoy this style of content, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. It helps us out a ton. We're trying to reach 500 subscribers. We have videos that drop every single week. We have multiple podcasts that are linked down below in the description. We live stream every Saturday night at 10 o'clock, so make sure you tune into that. Just a ton of content to help you guys become better DFS players and help you win money each and every single week. So without further ado, let's take a look at the Week 4 slate on DraftKings. All right, taking a look at the Week 4 prices for the quarterback position, there are obviously three standout plays that everybody is going to gravitate towards for this week, and that is Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Jalen Hurts. And for cash games specifically, I think you are choosing one of Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts. I think Lamar Jackson is just the odd man out at 8,300, but he's obviously a very good tournament play. Josh Allen, in the highest totaled game on the slate, has an insane floor, as we could see here: 30.7 points last week, 32.68 points the week before, 33 in week 1. And we just know what we're getting out of Josh Allen. And in DFS and cash games in general in 2022, the optimal strategy, in my opinion, is to play these high floor, high ceiling quarterbacks that can separate from the rest of the quarterback pool. And I think there's just a clear top 3 fantasy quarterback right now, and that's Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Jalen Hurts. So I think playing one of these guys is definitely optimal for Week 4. I think I personally prefer Josh Allen to Lamar and Jalen Hurts. But if you do need to save salary, you can play Jalen Hurts for 200 less. The upside is relatively the same. Jalen Hurts has been one of the best fantasy quarterbacks on the planet to start the season, and that has been in games where the Eagles have dominated throughout the entire game. He's still putting up 30+ in games that the Eagles are up ahead and controlling. So if we ever get a game where the Eagles can be pushed a little bit, which, taking a look at their schedule moving forward, doesn't seem likely, but in this spot against Jacksonville, I think that the Jags offense, which is quietly one of the best in the NFL to start the 2022 season, I think they can push the Eagles a little bit, and I think we could get a ceiling game out of Jalen Hurts in this spot at 8,200. But nonetheless, I don't need to spend time talking about how good Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts are. Obviously, everybody knows how good they are when it comes to fantasy football. Their rushing upsides are all extremely, extremely high. All of the touchdowns flow through all three of these quarterbacks, so they're just the best plays on the slate. And even at 82, 83, 8,400, I think you should be prioritizing them in cash. I guess I will mention Marcus Mariota, who should come in with some ownership in this spot at 5,600. This game has rose, a point or two in terms of the Vegas total. This game is in a dome. This game is actually one of the highest total games on the slate. And taking a look at his game log, we can see right here that, you're getting a solid floor out of Mariota. You're hardly ever going to get ceiling, which is why I want to prioritize playing Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts in cash this week, just because I want ceiling at every single position on a weekly basis, and I don't think Mariota gives you that. But nonetheless, he should have some ownership, and if you want, you can go there in cash games. He's projecting extremely well. He's projecting as the best quarterback value on the entire slate as it stands right now, so it's fine. Personally, I don't prefer paying down, but if he allows you to fit some other pieces in your lineup that you prefer, then I guess it's okay. But personally, I will not be playing Marcus Mariota in cash. I will be playing Jalen Hurts or Josh Allen, depending on how the lineup shakes out. Moving on to the running back position. This is another position this week where there are going to be two main chalk pieces, and that is Jamaal Williams and KHALIL Herbert. David Montgomery was ruled out last night. He is not going to play in this game in New York, so that opens up KHALIL Herbert to be an absolute volume monster at 5,700. He's projecting as one of the best plays on the slate, and the same could be said for Jamaal Williams as well. Jamaal Williams, with no DeAndre Swift there and without Amon-Ra St. Brown there, is going to project relatively well at only 6,100, and a lot of cash games are going to play Jamaal Williams and Khalil Herbert and move on from there. I don't want to stop this video in terms of running backs with just these two guys, because I think there are other viable cash game running backs. But if you're playing head-to-heads or double-ups on DraftKings this week, Jamaal Williams and Khalil Herbert are by far going to be the highest-owned running backs on the entire slate. And I guess I am a little skeptical about Jamaal and Khalil Herbert. I mean, I think there is still a ton of risk with both of these players. I think there's more risk with Jamaal Williams than Khalil Herbert. I think that both of these guys are touchdown dependent in terms of reaching their ceiling. I think that their roles should definitely increase, but Jamaal Williams isn't going to be a 75-80% snap player with 25 plus touches without DeAndre Swift. I expect Craig Reynolds to at least factor in some as the RB2, as he did last week, playing about 20% of the snaps or so. And with Amon-Ra St. Brown out, DeAndre Swift out, with DJ Chark dealing with an injury, this Lions offense could be barren for talent at the skill positions. And I think that there is a realistic outcome where this Lions offense just absolutely craters in this spot, even at home against a bad Seattle Seahawks defense. And I think with Jamaal Williams, you're basically relying on him to score multiple touchdowns to win you all the money this week. So obviously this is a conversation for tournaments, but I don't think he is a great tournament play by any stretch, so I would be fading him in tournaments. In cash, I think you just have to bite the bullet and play Jamaal Williams this week, but I personally believe he's not as great of a play as the industry is making him seem to be. Obviously, he can easily get there, but nonetheless, I think that there is still a ton of inherent risk with both of Jamaal Williams and Khalil Herbert this week. But speaking about some other running backs, I mean, you have your Saquon Barkley at 8K, who's also projecting really, really well right now. And Saquon Barkley is just the top of the NFL in yards created. He puts the team on his back. His upside is extremely high. He has a role in the passing game. This is a player with enormous touchdown upside, with enormous big play potential at home in a good spot against this middling Bears defense. So I don't mind Saquon Barkley, and there are some builds where you can play three running backs and you can play Jamaal, Khalil Herbert, and Saquon Barkley, especially with the lack of top options at the wide receiver position this week. So I don't hate those builds specifically, but I think I would be more inclined to go with four wide receivers, especially with some of the wide receivers in the mid-range that are projecting extremely well right now. And if we take a look at some of those guys, I think that the top guys for cash in terms of the wide receiver position is Stefon Diggs at 8,400. You could stack him with Josh Allen in cash. Some people might prefer to play Saquon for 400 less. I definitely prefer Stefon Diggs in this spot against a banged up Ravens secondary that, you know, is bottom 10 in the NFL in terms of passing yards allowed per game. This is a clear bounce back spot for Stefon Diggs on the road in Baltimore, coming off of an 11 target game, but only 14 DraftKings points. Not much needs to be said about Diggs. He's a great play each and every single week, but I referenced the mid-range, and I think that's where a lot of people are going to gravitate towards this week, specifically Deontay Johnson at 6K. This is a spot where you're getting a voluminous role player in Deontay Johnson at a relatively cheap price tag on a slate where the pricing is a little bit tighter. It's a good spot going up against this Jets secondary, and you know you're probably just going to get 10 plus targets out of Deontay Johnson whenever he steps out on the field. And with the lack of elite options at the top of the player pool that, you know, we can't play this week, Deontay Johnson looks like a pretty standout play, in my opinion. He's projecting as one of the best wide receiver values on the slate. He's projecting to be one of the highest owned players on the entire slate. So at 6K, I think he's definitely in cash game consideration. I think that Tyler Lockett is also in cash game consideration. Tyler Lockett, as you can see on the screen, coming off of back-to-back 11 target games. And with this Seahawks offense, they're just passing way over expectation. They're allowing Geno Smith to just drop back and let it rip. This is a game going up against a middling Detroit Lions secondary. Jeff Okudah has been playing well, but I think they are still susceptible to big plays, and Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf are definitely big play wide receivers and have those big plays in their ranges of outcomes. So at 5,900, I think Tyler Lockett is going to project as one of, if not the best wide receiver value on the board, and I think he's going to garner a ton of ownership. And then you also have your Drake London in this range, who is 6,100. You have your CeeDee Lamb kind of at the top of this range at 6,700. I don't think a ton of people are going to go to CeeDee Lamb, but CeeDee Lamb is top 5 in the NFL in terms of target share, even with Cooper Rush there at home against a terrible Washington secondary that is ranked 28th in yards allowed, 28th in passing DVOA. So you're getting just a prime spot for CeeDee Lamb to blow up. And even with Cooper Rush there, I don't mind CeeDee Lamb. Now, I think there are a couple of pay down options that you're going to have to consider in cash games. I think first is Mac Hollins. Hunter Renfrow has been ruled out for this game against the Broncos, and we kind of touched on it last week that, you know, his role isn't going to change, but there's going to be more target opportunity available without Hunter Renfrow. And as we can see here, he turned that into 8 catches, 11 targets for 158 and 1, just a career game for Mac Hollins. Obviously, he is a major regression candidate in week 4, and I don't want to buy a player like a Mac Hollins once again at an elevated price tag, but he is going to project pretty well, and he is going to be one of the highest owned players on the slate. I think that another wide receiver that is going to garner a ton of ownership is Richie James Jr. at 4K. The Giants are just barren at the wide receiver position right now. They have 3 active wide receivers on the 53-man roster as it stands right now, with Sterling Shepard tearing his ACL last week, Kadarius Toney and Wan'Dale Robinson most likely being out for this game. So they're running out a 3 wide receiver set of Kenny Golladay, Richie James, and Davis Sills. Richie James at 4K, he's going to project relatively solid. He's probably going to be a 80+% snap wide receiver in a game where the Giants will throw the ball some, and at 4K, I guess he's fine. But honestly, like, if I'm going to play a Giants receiver, I'd rather just play Kenny Golladay. I mean, they're going to have to play Kenny this week. There's no questions about it. He's going to have to be an every snap player. He's not going to project well. Nobody's going to play him. You're probably not playing him in cash. But as a tournament pivot at only 3,900, I would just buy into Kenny Golladay in week 4 and just hope that he can have a resemblance of what he used to be a few years ago with Daniel Jones, just because they need him. They need bodies to catch the ball. So Kenny Golladay is your tournament pivot at this range. But just in terms of wide receiver for cash, I think you're prioritizing, one of these top guys in Stephon Diggs or A.J. Brown. I think you're probably playing 2 or 3 of these mid-range guys, depending on where you go at the quarterback position, and Tyler Lockett, Deontay Johnson, CeeDee Lamb, Drake London. You can even include DJ Moore at 5,300. And then the paydown options are Richie James and Mac Hollins at the wide receiver position. Moving on to tight end. Tight end is just a terrible position each and every single week. There's not much that I personally love at the tight end position this week. I think that the highest owned player is either going to be TJ Hockenson at 4,100. Just with all of the injuries that I referenced to the line skill position players, somebody is going to have to eat up those vacant targets, and I think the prime player for that is TJ Hockenson. 4,100 is a little bit pricey, and I usually don't like to be in this range for cash, but the opportunity should be there. And then I think David NJOKU is the other player that stands out to me at 3,700, coming off a 10-target game, as you can see on the screen. And I talked about this game with Mariota a little bit. It's one of the highest total games on the slate. I think that the Browns are comfortable with NJOKU now, and I think that Jacoby Brissett, who targets tight ends at one of the highest rates out of any quarterback in the league, will look to NJOKU in this spot. It's a good matchup going up against this terrible Falcons defense. So I think in cash, you're playing David NJOKU and TJ Hockenson, one of those two guys in cash, and everybody else just really isn't viable. And then for defense, I think that this week you kind of do have to prioritize spending up a little bit. I think that you can go to the Giants at 3,100. I think you can go to the Panthers at 2,900. I think you can go to the Bears at 2,700. Just not a lot of good defensive spots this week. So honestly, just play whatever fits for your defensive position. Play the cheapest that you could possibly go that will allow you to fit the most floor/ceiling in your lineup as possible. But that is going to be it for the week 4 cash game video. So in summary, in my opinion, you're playing one of Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, and Marcus Mariota at the quarterback position. At the running back position, it's a relatively condensed pool this week. You're most likely playing JAMAAL and KHALIL Herbert 100% in cash games. They are going to be the two highest owned running backs on the entire slate. Maybe mix in Saquon in there. But those three running backs this week are probably going to be the only running backs that you should have in consideration. At the wide receiver position, I would have Stefon Diggs, A.J. Brown, Tyler Lockett, Deontay Johnson, CeeDee Lamb, Matt Collins, Richie James in my cash pool personally. And then at the tight end position, I think you're targeting one of TJ Hockenson or David NJOKU. You're welcome. I just gave you the skeleton key to winning cash games in week 4. Those are going to be the highest owned plays on the slate, and a lot of people's lineups are going to have some combo of 9 of those players that I just listed off. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Helps us out a ton. Make sure you check out the Saturday night live stream tonight at 10 o'clock if you're still watching, and I will talk to you guys next week.